Jennifer Dickerson, curator at San Bernardino County Museum, thank you so much for joining us. I want to ask you about Calico. What is it about Calico that has made it such a prime location to mine for minerals like silver and borax?
So Calico is situated in the Mojave Desert. The Calico Mountains have their name because it's rich in geographic topography. So there's minerals that are dispersed throughout the mountains. So when you drive by, walk by, you can see the different colors, and that reminded people of calico dress.
Of course.
So then they named it Calico.
Now, as I understand it, in the 1880s, San Bernardino County was providing California with a huge amount of its silver. How much was it exactly?
Arguably, San Bernardino County was mining as much as 70% of the state's silver.
Wow. And I read that about 80% of that 70% from the county was coming from Calico.
Yes, and that does make sense.
So what are we looking at behind us here at the museum?
So behind us is our mining exhibit in our courtyard. It's what a mining town would have looked like, or a mining site would have looked like. There's ore cars, trolley tracks where you would push ore, and there's ore buckets, mining equipment, and even a blacksmith shop.
So this is essentially a replica of what we may have seen at Calico in the 1880s?
Exactly. Through its hundreds of mines in Calico, I'm sure one of them would have looked like this. In fact, we actually have specimens of borax and silver in our exhibit upstairs if you want to come see.
Can we go inside?
Of course.
Okay, let's go.
So over here, Brad, we have a sample of silver. This is what would have been mined at Calico.
So let me ask you then, what was it about silver in the late 1800s that so compelled so many prospectors to try to find silver in the mountains of Calico?
Well, silver was lucrative, and it just made people a lot of money. Our currency was actually based on the silver standard, and it was used in photographic processes for the silver gelatin process. Well, and over here we actually have a sample of borax.
It looks a little chalky.
Yeah, borax is pretty chalky.
So what was borax used for in the 1890s, for example?
It was used for a lot of different things, fire retardants, glass manufacturing, but it was most used as laundry detergent.
And was borax profitable for the miners in Calico?
It really was profitable. Not as much as silver, but about $9 million was made at Calico in borax mining.
And that's 1890s dollars.
And that is 1890s dollars.
That's a lot of money.
It is quite a lot of money. So when you go to Calico, you should definitely talk to Pam Lambert. She was proprietor at Calico and can tell you all about daily life for miners at Calico.
Perfect. We were planning on going to Calico right after we left this museum, so let's head on over there. We made it to Calico Ghost Town. We found Pam Lambert. Thank you so much for joining us. We're near Barstow, California. That's where Calico is. I want to get a sense from you, Pam. What's your connection to Calico?
I was a concessionaire here running the melodrama theater in this town.
Okay, let me ask you about this town.
Okay.
So a lot of buildings standing today, but I want to know from you, how many of the buildings standing are original, meaning date to the 1880s and 1890s?
Oh, okay. There are 5.
Okay.
Starting at the beginning of town is the town office. And as we come up the street, you find Lane's General Merchandise,
Got it.
which was run by the Lane family.
Still operating?
Still operating, selling merchandise. And then on up the street, we find Smitty's Gallery, which is now the Zinda Mining Company.
Got that, okay.
Next to Smitty's Gallery is Lil's Saloon, where you could get a cold one.
And many cold ones were gotten in the 1880s and 90s. I mean, there were
Absolutely.
countless saloons up and down this street.
There was. And then the next thing we come to is Lucy Lane's house.
Lucy Lane is a name I know.
Yes.
I've seen her name in my research. I've seen pictures of her in the archives. Could we go visit her house? I'm sure we'll learn a lot about Calico if we go up there.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go.
Here we are. We're at one of the original buildings, which is Lucy Lane's home.
Okay. Can we go inside?
We sure can. Let's
Okay.
go.
This house is amazing.
Isn't it, though?
I can't believe that it's been here since the late 1800s.
The late 1800s, yeah.
So let me ask you about Lucy Lane. This is her home.
Yes.
What can you tell me about her?
Well, Lucy Lane was born in 1874.
Okay.
And she came to the town in 1884 with her parents.
They were prospectors, presumably?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
So during the course of living in the town, she met her husband, and they were married in 1893.
Right, John is his name.
Yes, yes. So they stayed around the town, even though the silver rush, the price of silver dropped,
Right.
and so everyone started leaving town. But then there was a borate discovery.
Yes.
So the Lanes stuck around and lived in the front portion of the general store.
Oh yeah, across the street. And in fact, I found a picture in the archives from 1926
Really?
of Lucy and John Lane.
Oh my goodness.
But he died pretty
Yes.
quickly thereafter, is that right?
He did.
1934, I think.
34, I believe it was, yeah.
And then I found in the archives a newspaper article of Lucy Lane still living in this house,
Still in this house.
1961.
1961.
I mean, she really was the first lady of Calico. That's what they called her.
That's what they called her,
She
yes.
lived virtually her entire life in this town.
She did, she did. She lived here until she died in 1967.
What did people say about her? What do you know of her?
Well, everybody loved her. I know once she was gone, they say that she continues to haunt this house and that you can sometimes see her walking between the buildings at night.
This
So,
is the Calico Ghost Town.
It is Calico Ghost Town.
Pam, by the 1970s, though, you arrive in Calico.
Yes, I got here in 75.
What brought you here?
I answered an ad for an actress in a theater.
Okay.
And so I came up here and became an actress at the Melodrama Theater, which I purchased 3 years later.
And you've shown me photos from your archive
Yes,
of
I
you
have.
as an actress here in Calico.
Yes.
And then I saw another photograph of you and your husband. So how was it in the 70s, 80s?
Well, there was a lot of restoration still going on,
Okay.
of course. And there were a lot of concessionaires that actually lived here in town. We were a really close-knit group of people who loved Calico and wanted to see it succeed and be restored.
And while I know some of you have moved on, you must be so proud of how your legacy lives on here in Calico. The town's thriving.
It is thriving, and that makes me really happy because I would have hated to see it really become a ghost town.
I want to go back and get a sense of what life must have been like for the prospector in the 1880s, 1890s. What can you tell us?
You know, you need to go to Maggie Mine. Ryan Isom, the superintendent there, he can give you all the information you need.
Okay, let's go to Maggie Mine. I'm ready to go. Okay, we made it into the Maggie Mine. We are in Dead Man's Drift. We're gonna be joined, here he is, by Ryan Isom. He is the superintendent for Calico Ghost Town. Ryan, tell us about yourself.
So I'm park superintendent at Calico Ghost Town. I grew up here.
Really?
I remember coming here as a child with my parents. We used to camp in the campground.
And why is that? Are your parents involved in Calico?
Yes, they actually are. They are the operators of the Maggie Mine and a few other concessions in the town.
Okay, so you know Calico.
Yeah,
So
most definitely.
Let me ask you about the men who would have worked here inside this Maggie Mine.
Yeah, so they would come in and they would just start hammer, chisel, knocking all the rock down, and just moving on through, following a vein, just like something we have right up here.
So they were looking for what, darker colors inside the rock?
The silver is a darker colored mineral, so they would follow that vein as far back and as far wide as they would.
So that's silver.
Yeah,
Today, that's silver.
yeah, most definitely.
So once they got the rock off the wall with silver in it, presumably, what would happen?
They would put it into an ore cart or
okay.
buckets, something just like you're standing right behind in front of.
And then what?
Then they would roll it on out, and the crazy thing about Calico is it was a gravity-fed mining operation. So there was all kinds of chutes everywhere.
I've seen a picture from the archives where you can see that we're on a hill and there are carts going down that hill.
Yeah, so they would dump their ore buckets down those chutes, and there would be a wagon at the bottom that would fill up, and they would run that wagon, which is a 20-man mule team,
Right. Also, I saw those pictures in the archives as well. I mean, mule after mule after mule, literally, I guess, dragging these carts to where?
These wagons are to a stamp mill, which then they would crush the ore down and process it with crazy chemicals that you wouldn't even think about using
Right.
today.
And let's talk about that because I want to get a sense from you about the life of the miner. I understand they were using mercury, which is incredibly toxic, to extract the silver from the rock. What was life like as they were extracting the rock from the mountain?
It was a horrible life to live. They were working long hours in the heat, horrible ventilations in these mines.
I've seen pictures again in the archives. These men look exhausted. They just look haggard and harried. I can't imagine living that life. And we're in the desert. It can get to be 120 degrees outside. I can't imagine what it's like inside one of these mines.
Yeah, the dust, and you can't even see where you're going or what you're actually doing.
What about life in the town? How is it for the people residing in Calico?
It was a very dangerous, wild life.
Really?
There was upwards of 20 bars. There was brothels in town.
So this is the Wild West. I mean, undeniably the Wild West. Dangerous, just gunslinging, you can't even imagine.
Most definitely, it was extremely dangerous. And if you want to hear about something wild,
Yeah.
you should go talk to Genevieve Preston.
Okay.
She has a wild murder mystery.
Right, I know Genevieve. She's the archivist at San Bernardino County.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, let's go talk to Genevieve Preston.